So, this is a Genie Point rapid charger, 50 kilowatts. I'm going to see if I can get a charge off of this, because when I tried on Saturday, I tried multiple times and it would fail after a few minutes. Okay, so I've got my CCS adapter in. And what you'll see here, we've got CCS on the left, we've got CHAdeMO on the right, and in the middle here, we've got Type 2 AC charger. So I'm going to use Electroverse here. So let's take CCS, put that in there. Right, I'm going to go and sit in the car and see if I can fire this up with Electroverse and see how long it lasts. Find my Electroverse app. Go onto map. There it is. It's that one there. It's not actually quite in the right place. Can charge. We're on the CCS. There it is. Okay, start charge. And that should be it. Should be all we need to do. Okay. So far so good. This is a 50 kilowatt charger. I don't actually need a charge, but I'm going to trying to demonstrate if this actually works or not, because you go in the forums, any EV forum on Facebook, and mention Genie Point, and people just seem to laugh. Genie Point seem to have a very poor reputation and have a lot of chargers that just don't work very well. So I came here on Saturday. What I found on Saturday was that the charger would only work for a few minutes, about 3 or 4 minutes, and then it will cut out. So I'm just going to leave this work running and see what happens, see if it cuts out. So the reason I'm here is, as I mentioned, I came here on Saturday and had a failed, well, I tried about 3 or 4 times and had a failed charge off the CCS. But what was actually happening is there was a couple next to me and they were charging off the Type 2 lead. So when I pulled up, there was a little Vauxhall here, a little Vauxhall, I don't know if it was an Astra or an E Corsa or something, little small hatchback, charging off the Type 2 AC cable. And I thought that was a bit strange. So the CCS handle was available. I thought, well, does that mean I can use it? I didn't actually know whether the charger would support more charging multiple cars simultaneously on different ports. It turns out it does. Although I'm guessing it shares the 50 kilowatts between all the cars plugged in. I'm getting 32 at the moment, so it's not brilliant. So anyway, so this little Vauxhall was here, and they were charging off the Type 2 AC cable. So I tapped on the window and said, she ran the window down, it was a lady in there and a partner, and just said, any reason why you're charging off the Type 2 cable? Because I said, that's really slow, you're going to be here for ages. And she said, well, we've had a nightmare trying to get the car to charge off this charger. So I think she tried the CCS and couldn't get it working, so she'd actually called the Genie Point hotline. And then when they finally got through, they spoke to someone, and he basically just advised them to use their own cable, plug into the Type 2 port on the front and do their charge that way. And it had been working. So I said, okay, well, that's fair enough, but how long have you been here? And she said, we've been here over 4 hours trying to charge this car now. And she was getting visibly quite frustrated, and you can't really blame her. I think, in 4 hours? I said, are you sure the CCS doesn't work? And we went round and I uncovered the little dust cover, you know, on the 2 pins, and said, did you try, do you know about this? And she said, oh yeah, because I've charged it at Sainsbury's previously, and that had a problem. So then when I plugged in and started my charge through Electroverse, I mean, for a start, they were absolutely gobsmacked that I was able to start the charge so quickly, because they'd been downloading all these apps. So they downloaded the Genie Point app, they downloaded 3 or 4 other apps as part of their journey to get charges. So they were quite amazed that I could just fire up a single app and tap start charge, and it started working. So I mentioned the Electroverse app to them. Turns out they were Octopus customers, but they didn't know about the Electroverse app. So I said, right, well, you've got to get the Electroverse app to start off with. That'll save downloading all these myriad of different apps. So I was going to go into Morrisons and do a bit of a shop, but I got chatting anyway to them whilst my car was charging. And it turns out they'd driven down on the Friday from King's Lynn in Norfolk to come to Basingstoke for an event. And they'd arrived, well, they didn't even make it to Basingstoke. They got as far as Reading, and they were on 5% charge, and the car was giving them critical warnings, critical battery low warnings. So they were panicking. So they managed to find a Shell petrol station, I think Shell Recharge, with a Shell Recharge charger, to get some extra power into the car, because they were obviously on 5%. So obviously they had to download an app for that and pay through the nose, but it meant they did manage to get to Basingstoke on the Friday and go to their event. But she said, like, well, I said, well, you should have been able to get here on a full charge. You shouldn't have needed to charge up. She said, well, we only left with 60%. And so, well, why didn't you get a full charge when you left? And she said, well, we got this ohm charger. And I'm like, oh, right, okay, that's one of the chargers that Octopus offer with Intelligent Octopus. You can have either an ohm or a Zappy. So I said, well, I've actually got the other charger. I've got a Zappy. She said, well, I've got this ohm charger, and I keep getting notifications on my phone saying it's been interfered with. I've got like 15 messages saying that the charger's been interfered with, and I've been trying to talk to them, getting no support. I said, did you get it installed through Octopus? And she said no, so I don't know who she got it installed through. So she said, but that's the reason why we only left with 60%, because last week I managed to get a full charge out of it, but this week I only got to 60% because it kept giving me this interfered message. So I was like, cracky, I don't know what's going on here. And I mentioned the fact that the ohm charger uses the mobile phone network to talk to Octopus, whereas the Zappy uses your Wi-Fi. And then they were getting confused about the difference between Wi-Fi and your mobile phone network. So anyway, so they're having a bit of a nightmare with that. So they went to their event on the Friday night, and then they were trying to find a charger on the Saturday so they could get home, because they had to drive back to King's Lynn. They'd come all the way down from King's Lynn and needed to get back on the Saturday. Hence why they found this charger at Morrisons. I'm in Basingstoke, and oh, sure enough, the charger's just stopped. Right, hang on. I'm going to just flip the camera, and then I'll carry on this story. Yep, sure enough, the charger stopped. This is what I had. And if I go out, I'll probably see it's flashing red. Let's go and have a look. Yeah, there you go, you can see. So there's obviously something wrong with these Genie Point chargers, because my charger's stopped now. Anyway, I'm not going to carry on with this. I'm going to disconnect and just sit in the car. Might have to move, and then I can carry on my video. So a quick look in Tessie then. Have a look at charges. Here it is. So this was the charge. Got 4 kilowatts out of it before it finished. So I had a failed charge. So there's definitely something wrong with the Genie Point charger here, and that might explain why this couple were on the Type 2, because they couldn't get the CCS to work. So anyway, so they were obviously panicking. They got to get all the way back to King's Lynn, getting very frustrated. So they've been here for about 4 hours, and I looked at the car and it said, it had about 180 miles range apparently on the meter when I looked. And I said, well, you can stop charging now. You've got enough to get home, surely. And that's when she said, well, no, it lied to us, because on the way here we started off with 180 odd miles, and then it dropped to like 140, and it kept dropping. We lost like about 40 or 50 miles range, she was saying. And I'm like, okay, well look, these range meters, you can't treat them as gospel. You have to treat them with a pinch of salt. But I think they honestly, sincerely believed what it said on the reading. But so when I quizzed them a little bit, I said, well, did you have air conditioning on? She said yes. And I said, what sort of speed were you doing? Were you doing like 70, 75-ish? And she said, yeah, we were up around about that. So I said, right, well, if you just back off a little bit on your way home, if you slow down to say 60, 65, and turn the air conditioning off, it's not that, it's not particularly warm today, you don't need the aircon on, you'll get a lot more range, make a hell of a difference. And they'd never heard of this. So anyway, I went off and did my shop, and then when I came back they'd gone, so hopefully they made it back home okay. But then I suddenly had a thought. I'm in a supermarket car park here. I can't actually see any signs, but normally they have parking restrictions. They're normally operated by a third-party company like Parking Eye, so they'll check when cars come in and out. I don't know if we've got ANPR in here, but normally you only get like 2 or 3 hours free parking, and they'd been here for like 4 hours. So I'm thinking now, are they going to get a PCN, a penalty charge notice, in the post, you know, for 100 quid in a few days' time? I mean, imagine just how pissed off you would be. You've come down here, you've had all this aggro of trying to charge, you've wasted hours on a slow charger trying to get your card charged up because the CCS doesn't work, only to be then hit with a £100 penalty fine a few days later. I mean, I felt so sorry for this couple, because it was a new car. It was a 74 plate Vauxhall. I can't remember if it was an E Astra or an E Corsa or something. Little hatchback it was. I'll have to have a look, try and see if I can figure out what it was if I do a Google. They'd only had it 4 weeks, so clearly I think what had happened is, you know, I think they were a little bit naive. But this is just an ordinary couple. I reckon they'd gone into a showroom, bought a brand new car, and they'd been sold an EV, and they'd been promised some kind of utopian dream. And as we all know, the charging infrastructure is not great, but it does work if you know what you're doing. I mean, I actually recommended that they download the Tesla app. I said, on your way back, you know, you've got a Tesla supercharger at South Mims. If you're going at the A1M, if you go at the M11, there's Birchanger, and when you get to Kings Lynn, there's one there as well. So there's plenty of, I didn't know whether they were all open to non-Teslas. So I said, that's why you need the Tesla app, and it will tell you. And then the lady said, oh no, I ain't downloading no more bloody apps, kind of thing. That's kind of just about summed it up, really. So, but what it said to me was that we've got to do better. The charging infrastructure in this country is getting better, but it's so complicated. You've got all these different handles, CCS, Type 2, CHAdeMO. And then you've got all the jargon that goes with it, like a rapid charger, a fast charger, supercharger, which all mean slightly different things. I mean, even a fast charger isn't that fast. A fast or a rapid, I'm getting confused. But you know, they classify a 22 kilowatt charger as fast. That's not fast. It still takes you hours. It might be 22 kilowatts, but because it's AC, the car won't take that. It'll probably max out at about 11 kilowatts. So, you know, you've got a 70 kilowatt hour battery, you know, it could take you 6 or 7 hours to, well, you know, if you're going from 20 to 80%, you're still looking at like, well, 4, 5, 6 hours. So this is the problem. It's just, you know, this particular charger doesn't look like you can use contactless. It was obviously an older one, so you've got to use an app. So, you know, she didn't know about Electroverse, so she was downloading all these different apps and having to register payment details each time. I mean, it's crazy. It just needs to be made a lot more simpler, and I think they need to have training courses. So if you're going to buy an EV, I mean, obviously the salesmen at these dealerships are just incentivized to sell vehicles and get them off the forecourt and get their bonus. So the actual handover is probably relatively quick. You know, it's just like, oh, just go down and plug in and away you go kind of thing. But we know it's not like that. So it's almost like we either, if this country's going to adopt EVs for, you know, for the Joe public, we need to get better at teaching the ordinary man and woman in the street how to use the charging infrastructure and how to charge their cars up. So maybe there needs to be like a national program where teams of people go around all the community centres and like have open sessions, that people like drop-in sessions where people can come along, you know, maybe once a month or something, or once a quarter. So your normal average Joe in the street can come along and learn about all this stuff. Or maybe the BBC need to do some sort of public information series, like a half-hour series once a week, or just a 1 hour documentary on iPlayer or something that covers it all. You know, goes through all the different, it kind of demystifies it and simplifies it, because it's like kilowatts and kilowatt hours and Type 2 and CCS this and CHAdeMO that, and people haven't got a clue. They just, like, they go to a petrol station, they plug the nozzle in and they pump, and then they pay with a credit card, and that's it. All this fanning about at chargers, it needs to be as simple as an ice vehicle just going to a petrol station, and it just isn't. We're miles away from it. And if we're going to have like 20-30 million people driving EVs over the next few years, it's going to be carnage. You're going to have so much frustration and anger that, you know, like this couple that I met, it wouldn't surprise me if they jack their EV in and go back to petrol or diesel, because they were visibly frustrated about the whole experience, and now they're going to tell all their friends about what a bad experience they had. and it's just going to perpetuate negativity, and it doesn't have to be like that. Anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say. I just hope they don't get a PCN. If they do, I'll have a little look around, see if I can find the parking I notice, because I might go in and get a coffee actually, and I'll have a look. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay, I found it. I found it. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's not ANPR. It says parking for electrical vehicles only. This car park is patrolled. Failure to comply with the above will result in the issue of an £85 parking charge notice, £50 paid within 14 days. And it says we are using handheld cameras to capture images of vehicle and number plates to monitor and enforce the above terms and conditions. So it doesn't look like it's ANPR. It doesn't look like there's actually a time limit. It's more about just them checking that you're actually charging. It's done manually. But unless there's any other restrictions, they might be okay. Look at this. So I've just gone in, got my coffee. I've just come back to the charger, and look, this has gone green now. I wonder what that means. That was red earlier. When I've had my failed charge, that had gone red. So I don't know what's going on. There's something up with this. And unfortunately, that was the root cause, I think, of the couple that I found their problems on Saturday. Because if they'd have managed to get a decent charger for that, well, if it was delivering 30 kilowatts, I suppose it might have taken them the best part of an hour to get a decent charge. Still better than 4 hours, though. Well, they could have stopped somewhere on the way. But again, it all comes down to education. They could have maybe had a bit off of that and then got on their way and stopped at a Tesla supercharger somewhere and got like 150 kilowatts in. Anyway, let's get back into my lovely Model X and pick my son up from his football training and call it a day then. But yeah, I think Genie Point needs to do better. Well, in fact, I think the whole charging infrastructure needs to be a bit better thought out. It's just not good enough at the moment. Okay, that's it for now. Till next time. Take care, bye.